Jacinda Ardern. Now, she's passed legislation to limit global greenhouse emissions out of New Zealand at 1.5 degrees Celsius, all by 2050. But she's, you know, the one thing New Zealand has is its agriculture. She's treating agricultural methane different than every other emissions, but this is now legally binding.
Yes.
It's legally binding, and that's the interesting part.
Methane actually generates more problems for global warming than carbon dioxide does. So she's leaving out the stronger, hotter
gas. She
gas.
has to, otherwise what is New Zealand known for if it's no dairy?
I'm waiting for the comic book, New Zealand Saves the World. That's what's coming next. The global climate is actually all the atmosphere around this planet. It is massive, it is extremely complex. Chaos theory was invented to explain climatology because it is so complex. Governments can't change the climate. They can't do that. And it's certainly the case that New Zealand can't change the climate. So exactly what Jacinda Ardern thinks she's announced, I have no idea.
Well, legislated, this is the problem, Gideon. She's legislated these changes. But of course, I'll say that again, I mean, emissions reduction by a set target by 2050, but none of it includes the worst culprit of all, which is methane. So this is just a more post-striking.
Yeah, but look, are we surprised? I mean, Jacinda Ardern will do what Jacinda Ardern does. She will happily sacrifice the New Zealand economy, including the agricultural sector, for the sake of New Zealand's 0.17% of global carbon emissions. Who we need to be calling out is Simon Bridges and the New Zealand National Party, who have weighed this through. Now, Simon Bridges made a big song and dance about certain elements of the package and tried to tinker around with the details, but at the end waved it through Parliament. It reminds me a lot of the way Malcolm Turnbull, Mark I as leader, dealt with Kevin Rudd's emissions trading scheme, where he bickered over the details, you know, whether aluminium smelters, for example, were exempt versus concrete producers and so on and so forth. But in the end, there was never any question as to what Malcolm Turnbull would do. It was only when Tony Abbott became leader and said, no, this is a great big new tax on everything, was there enough product differentiation for the Liberal Party to win support again, and eventually, as they say, the rest was history. This is not a profile encouraged from Simon Bridges. He really needs to stand up for what I would imagine would be the silent majority of New Zealanders who know that this is just economic sacrifice for precisely zero environmental gain.
Particularly when New Zealand doesn't have much, as I said, in the way of export economy other than agriculture. And this is a problem, Caleb, for them. They sign onto this. It's all made, you know, to look good for Jacinda Ardern on the world stage. At the same time, as the United States says to the UN, we're out of Paris, here's our formal declaration, we gave you the required 12 months notice. India's not in it, China's not in it. I mean, most of the big emitters are out, and dear old New Zealand, which has only got, you know, a little bit of dairy to flog, has put themselves in.
But the whole thing's a joke. I mean, we talk about virtue signalling, and this is virtue signalling in its highest form. She's more than willing, Jacinda Ardern is more than willing to sacrifice her economy and her people, which of course there are only 5 million people in New Zealand, but you exclude methane. So 5 million people in New Zealand. Meanwhile, the country has 30 million sheep. 30 million sheep. And the average sheep on any normal day will emit about 30 litres of methane. Now, by my calculations, that makes 323 billion litres of methane that all the sheep in New Zealand are emitting every year. But we exclude that because it's too difficult to deal with.
Yeah, right.
It is a pure joke. It makes her look good, it makes her feel fuzzy, and it does absolutely nothing except dud her own people to change the world's climate.
Yeah.